Dala, dala, dala. Welcome to this first episode of the Maat Me podcast. Now, basically, this is a vehicle for us to exchange a little bit more in terms of the comments, the messages, or the questions, or suggestions that I've received regarding the Maat series overall. And I think I can choose some of the comments, some of the questions, or some of the suggestions or comments that I find very striking and useful, that may be beneficial for the rest of you to discuss, to think about, or maybe just to comment on as well, and exchange and have a discussion on. In this first episode, what I'm going to be discussing is based on episode 23 from the contribution from Yumakuwa 4639, which authorized me to share their contribution in terms of what was the comments that was made and some of the observations that were underlined within it. And I'm very grateful for those contributions because it enables me also to think about different things and to be more aware of what you guys are going through in your own particular journey. I will start the podcast by saying this is going to be a long one. So if you have some chores, or it's cold where you are, grab a cup of coffee, settle down, settle in, and let's go through it. Because this is a new format for me, I would love to hear what you guys think, if this suits you or not. I may do longer or shorter podcasts based on how much you guys are willing to expand. But it's an avenue for me basically to engage in with the comments and the thoughts that you've shared on the series about Maat. It's possible also that in the future I may do interviews or discussions with some of you guys. So if you're interested, please do let me know in the comments. Let me know a way to reach you. And we can see how we can work out some discussions or a timeline that could work for the both of us. So I will start the podcast by stating that to me, or reminding you that to me, Maat, or your journey with Maat, with integrating and embodying those principles within your life, is a personal one. This is a journey that you make for yourself to improve and transform yourself. This is not a journey that you make to change others or to change the world. The world will change as each of us do the work and change ourselves, as we transform ourselves. And this is something that I'm going to keep repeating over and over again because there's a lot of comments that I see where people are trying to change others. And there's nothing wrong with trying to change others, but to me, your energy will be a lot more better placed focusing on yourself, on transforming and improving yourself. And from my personal experience, when you start doing that, everything else kind of fall pretty much into place. And it also aligns with the principle of free will that everyone else has. So if others do not want to change, if they don't want to explore what you're exploring, you also have to respect that. That's why it's important for you to focus on your own self because, it may help you avoid a lot of frustration. The only caveat to this, there's two caveats I will put. If you think your calling is to go towards other people and do this, and you feel divinely called to do it, go ahead and maybe that's the path you're supposed to take. Who am I to tell you what your path is and what isn't? It's your responsibility to figure that out, and it's your responsibility to also act and go on the path that you're supposed to go. But to me, the principles of Maat are not given for you to be imposing them on other people. It's really for you to embody them use them within yourself and within your journey. The other exception that I will say in terms of being a personal journey, an individual personal journey, is when you have a child. So basically, once you have a child, your role here is to use what you've learning on your journey to be able to guide this child, to be able to present what you've learned and see if they will accept it at their own or if they won't. And ultimately, we've all been children at some point. Our parents have given us whatever they knew, whatever they wanted to share with us. And as we're becoming adult, we decide what we want to use, what we don't want to use. And I think that's the role of a parent. A parent is there to guide you, to give them what they know. And it is upon you to figure out what else you need what else needs to be complementary, and whether you even accept what was being taught to you or what was being provided to you and choose your own path. This is why sometimes you can disagree with your parents, you can go in the opposite way, you can start exploring something, or that sometimes you walk the path that your parents already carved for you. But as an adult, it becomes your responsibility to figure that out. It becomes your responsibility to assess what your parents taught you, to try to decipher what's actually helpful within that and what isn't, to find what's useful and leave the rest. So this serves you in several ways because it enables you to have a bit of grace for your parents. They decided to share specific things with you, and you have to go through what those things were. And some of it is going to be useful, and some of it won't. You know, and at the basic part of it, your parents taught you how to do your hygiene, how to do this, how to do that, how to clean, maybe how to cook as well. So some of the things are very useful skills that you can still use as an adult and that you can improve upon. So if your mom only taught you a couple of dishes that were her favorite dishes of the best dishes that she made, nothing is preventing you from improving on that by learning, expanding your cooking skills, basically. The same, if your father was teaching you woodworking and few things and how to to amend few things around the house, you can always expand on that by choosing hobbies that help you to improve on your skills, or even going the professional route into trades. So this is really to get you to the basic and seeing, people give you what they want to give you, or they give you what they know. And of course, your parents made mistakes. People who were giving you things while you're growing up made mistakes. They probably also show you things that are useless, things that you may find dangerous, or things you disliked. And it's up to you to assess that, and things you dislike them or they are useful to you, to discard them and put them on the side and focus on the stuff that were actually useful to you. And look for how you can complement the education that you've received or the teaching that you've received on your own. But the point is that that's your responsibility. Once you become an adult, that is your responsibility. When you are a child, that's your parents' responsibility to find, how to complement your education, how to provide you with the education and the things you need to know. And this is why, to me, school, the reason why your parents put you to school is because it should be a vehicle for them to get you to have certain skill and to learn certain things. And this is also the same reason why you may be homeschooled. If your parents choose to they have to make the time to teach those things directly to you, and you know them. So it's not because the school is there. Do not start thinking that school is supposed to teach you everything you need to know. School is only one tool among all of the other tools that life has for you to learn. And your parents only put you to school in order for you to get certain skills. Now, we're not going to get into the discussion is that whether the school actually teaches you those things, whether the school even interfere with your relationship with your parents because of what they're teaching you and how they're teaching it to you. But ultimately, that's a decision that your parents make. You don't have to send your children to school. You can homeschool them. You have different options. And yes, moving to a state where you can homeschool them if the state that you are in does not allow for that is also an option. Moving across the world so you can homeschool your kids is also an option. Not staying where you're at and blaming the circumstances, the laws, and everything else is not going to change anything. So one way of looking at it, if you want to change things, you're going to be required to do certain things. Things are not going to change just because you're complaining. Things are going to start changing once you started thinking about it, once you started doing things in order to change your circumstances. And of course, it's never overnight. So it's not because you've been doing it, you started changing for a few days or a few weeks, that you start complaining and just going to give up because you don't see the result yet. It's just like growing a vegetable or a fruit. Sometimes it takes 2 years before you start seeing the first fruits. So, but in the meantime, you still have to water the plant. The plant still needs sun, still needs everything else. So you still have to put in the effort in order for you to see the results. So that kind of approach applies to almost everything in life. You're not going to get things like right away like that. Things are going to come when you put in the work. So to go back to the contribution and the point, I'll try to divide the subject matter so that it's easier for you to find. or I will put them in the description box. So if there is a component you want to go directly to, you'll be able to do that. So the first contribution was the a discussion about the fact that human beings, sometimes almost a lot of people are seeking acceptance in the mind of others. So you have some intellectual or religious belief or political belief, no matter what belief that you have, and it's not enough for you to hold those beliefs dear to yourself. You're also seeking to for other people to accept those beliefs. And I think this does not align with Ma'at, simply because Ma'at is asking you to work on yourself and to work on the belief that you have and to construct those beliefs and to assess those beliefs, to see if those beliefs are true, if they're useful to you. So once you start involving somebody else, the acceptance from somebody else, you're already starting to meddle your own course. Because in a way, if you are surrounded by people who do not align with your, let's say, religious or political belief and what have you, they're never going to agree with you, because they will have the same right that you think you have to assert and to seek acceptance from others. They may have that same mentality towards you, and so you guys will keep just arguing until the dawn of day. And this is why for me, Matt is really about your personal journey. You going through the belief that you may have, whether it's political, intellectual, religious, what have you. You going through them and assessing them yourself. And the way that episode 23 of Maat was talking about listening to opposing opinion is just a process that you should be going through in order to assess your own belief, to see if your belief, what are they rooted on, what are they based on, what is the foundation that's pushing you to think this way or to hold that belief so dear. So when you listen to other people, to opposing opinions, then you can see, and you listen to what it is, you listen to what it is based upon, you exchange upon that, it can help you clarify your own beliefs. So either by comforting you in the position that you already had, or by reevaluating some things. Maybe your beliefs were just based on emotion, on a feeling you had, and now you no longer have that feeling. That means, is the belief still the same because you no longer feel the way you used to feel about it? Maybe your belief was based on something that was false. And so by listening to other people, by confronting yourself to opposing opinion, you can try to assess that. It's like, what is the basis of this opposing opinion? And this basis may prove to be a source that clearly contradicts, that clearly shows you that the basis of your own belief is false. And as I say, as you go through this process, it's not for you to just, jump into whatever someone else is saying or stuff. It's for you to assess what this other person think. How can that be useful to me? It may be useful in so many ways, even ways you haven't thought of yet. Because the simple fact, at the very least, it could be useful to you because you'll know that there are other people who think that way. And that may be the only thing you take away from that, and saying, okay, I disagree. I think this is dangerous, or whatever assessment, evaluation you're making in this opposing opinion. At the very least, the knowledge you gain from confronting it, from being exposed to it, is that you will become aware that there are people who think like that. Okay, so at least you will gain that as a value, or as a result of going through this process. But what you may also gain, that you may see, there may be things that you didn't think about because you don't have the time to think about everything. There may be a perspective, there may be a reason why this person thinks that way. Maybe it's based on an experience that they had. And also take in consideration that sometimes someone can have an experience, and because of that experience, they draw a wrong conclusion. One of the example is that, for example, when you're developing a belief that's based on the feeling you had at a certain time. One of the classical example is that you go through a relationship and there's a workout, and now you're thinking all men are this way. So this is a belief that you started holding, a belief that is false, and a belief that is based on the feeling that you had at the time because of the experience that you had. And the most classic way that you realize that this belief is false is that you may encounter a new person, fall in love again, and realize no, not all men are the same, or not all women are the same. Even though other people would have told you that's not true, not all men do this, not all women are like that. And you may have disregarded this opposing opinion to yours until you figure it out by meeting someone else. And the reason why I say this is not a simple process, because some people will still hold this belief, or they will have to go through several experiences before they realize that there's a belief that they hold that is false. And holding a false belief has nothing to do with what you are maybe consciously aware of. It may be something that you keep within yourself, and we get to that when we'll discuss opinions. So on this first point is really just underlying that this journey is about you. It's not about others. So whether others agree with you or disagree with you, let's say if you're having paranormal experiences, if you are have medium abilities, if you are having premonitory dreams or visions and things like that, whether other people agree with you or not is not going to change the experience you're having. It's not going to change your visions. It's not going to have an impact on you. So you will be at least wasting some of the time trying to convince other people. And this is where I'm trying to get at, is that the energy that you put in trying to convince other people, trying to be accepted by people who don't accept you or who don't even share your belief or your views, that energy could be used with so much more efficiency, putting it in working yourself, putting it to build and strive with people who actually already agree and accept you. So there may be things here to look at in saying, this is why there is an intellectual community, there are religious communities. If you hold certain religious belief, it's easier for you to just go to this religious group, interact with people from the same group with whom you share common beliefs, rather than going to another religious group and trying to convince them that this is the better way or this is the way to go. And so to me, I do not seek acceptance in the mind of others. And I think I've said several times on this channel that I'm sharing some of my journey, some of the things that I've experienced or seen or what have you, not for you to join me on my journey in that kind of way, but for you to look at it and see, is there something that could be useful to you as you're on your own path? As you go through your own things. There may be things here that may be helpful to you. There may be things that you can take in consideration, or things that you can just become aware of that they were in existence, even though you won't use them or you don't need them. And that's kind of my perspective, and that's kind of like what my stand on it. And of course, I haven't always thought this way. When I was much younger, when I started having certain experiences, my first reflection was, I ought to go to my friends, my best friend, and start telling this and that and that. Oh, the moon has an impact. You can have recurring dreams, different. And then I quickly, very quickly realized, as a 10-year-old or even an 8-year-old on some of those topics, that other people didn't care, other kids didn't care, other parents didn't care. So I focus on the people who did care about those things. My grandmother, my grandfather, certain cousins, certain people that were around me, some certain friends, and those were the people I discussed those things with. And I wasn't seeking the acceptance, and I didn't have to, because they were already sharing the same experiences. They were already on that path. And I think it comforted me, it reassured me, and it pushed me, encouraged me to learn more about the thing that interests me, for the sake of me going towards what's useful to me, what interests me, rather than for me putting my energy in trying to see how I can persuade other people about things that they are on their own journey trying to figure it out. So it was enough for me to find out I have a journey, that there's so much more to life to find, to explore, to learn, and to discover, that I never really felt the need, after those couple of experiences, I never felt really the need to go and convince others. And sometimes also, I don't feel the need to defend what I believe or my experiences or what I'm going through, simply because no matter what other people are trying to tell me, those are experiences I already lived. Those are the things that I've already gone through. I cannot go back and change what had happened, what I've seen, what I've learned, what I've gone through. So other people's opinions, if they disagree, if I can recognize right away that it's normal that you haven't gone through those things or that your experience was different. And this is what I tell you all the time. Our sensitivities are not the same. I could be watching a commercial and never buy this brand, even be in the supermarket. I don't know how many times watch this commercial. I don't know how many times and be in the supermarket and be like, no, I'm going to stick to the brand I already have, or I'm going to stick to what I was coming to the store to buy. And I will have a friend right next to me who will go to the store and say, oh, I'm thinking about buying this. Why? Because she's seen it on TV, not even because she needs it at the time. We don't have the same sensitivity. And this is why it's more important for you to know your own sensitivity. So if you go to some place and you don't feel comfortable, you can tell your friend, okay, I'm going to step out, I'm going to leave. It doesn't mean you guys have to leave. It means just I need to leave for my own sanity or for my own well-being. I need to be in a certain environment where there's things that are not, disrupting me. And respecting the fact that your friends don't have the sensitivity. They're perfectly fine and they're having a good time. So to me, that was the first point to underline, that the road of seeking acceptance in the mind of other can be very tumultuous, and that energy could be put to much, much better use. And this also goes with when you are a child or you are minor and your parents are trying to teach you a bunch of things and stuff like that, and intuitively within yourself, you don't believe it. You don't believe it. To me, if you are going through that, you know, obviously they are not going to necessarily accept your own journey, because otherwise they wouldn't be pushing this on you if you already express some of the restriction or some of the disinterest that you may have. But what I would say is that as a child, before you reject something, learn about it. Try to understand what it is that your parents are trying to teach you or this person is trying to teach you. Try to understand what it is before you can classify and categorize it. Simply why? Because you have less experience, you know less. So at least, even if you find out, okay, this is not something that's for you, try to understand and learn what it is that's being offered to you first, and then make the classification, the categorization that you want, that is not for you or whatever else. Do not just dismiss it because it's your parents telling you. Do not just dismiss it because you feel a certain way. Still listen and see, try to understand what is being presented. Why is it being presented? Why is it useful for you to learn this or know this or practice this? And then you assess, and then you make your own choices. And I know it can be tricky telling your parents, that who are Christian, raise you as a Christian, to say, oh, you're not a Christian anymore, or you're not a Muslim, or whatever it may be. You don't want to play football anymore, even though you're in senior in high school. That may be a bit tricky for you to do, because you depend on your parents and then the one raising you and stuff. But at the same time, it is something that I will say it's something that you have to be careful about doing. That means if you intend to go against the authority of your parents, you may to have another plan. So maybe there's an uncle or an aunt to whom you could go and live with if your parents, were opposed to what you were doing, or were threatening to throw you out or whatever else. Maybe you find a job and you could move out. But before you just go and blurt, just have a plan B. And this is something that you should have regardless in life. If you want to quit a job, make sure you have another job already lined up, or you have a plan on what you are going to do. But so you don't have to seek acceptance. You don't have to recognize acceptance. You don't have to put a lot of energy to force other people to accept you, because because your energy will be much better spent focusing on the people who actually accept you, who actually like you, who actually share the same type of beliefs or what have you, and go through that. And especially as an adult, that's going to be a lot more beneficial, because that's going to help you focus, and that's going to help you go in a direction that is going to be less with less frustration otherwise. The other notion that was raised or underlined was the notion of opinions and the dangerousness of opinions, because from this contribution, having an opinion is something that's very dangerous, because a lot of conflict, we can look through history and see how there've been wars, there's been so many taboos, there've been fights, people trying to impose their opinions, people trying to manipulate other people, and all of those things. And especially also, and I will underline um, what this contribution called spiritual conviction. So you have this conviction is so strong that you want to impose it on other people, that you are acting in a way that impact negatively other people. All that because you hold your opinion so dear that you need to impose it. So for me, this is this is like the question of the dawn times. To me, having an opinion alone, just the fact that you have an opinion does not mean anything. It doesn't do it's not negative, it's not bad, it's not good. That opinion is a thought that's within your head. That's all what it is. You can have opinion about almost everything and anything. It just means that you're evaluating certain things and you're coming to a conclusion about those things, and that you're doing that all the time. When you're lifting your legs to go up the stairs, you are evaluating. You're going to have an opinion about how high you should be lifting your foot to make sure you're in balance while you're going up the stairs. How fast you should be going, how fast you shouldn't be going. All those things are going on in your head and will have an impact based on how you act. And I think this is distinction. It is not the opinion that are dangerous, it's the actions that are based on those opinions that could be faulty, that could be all kind of things, but it's what people do with it. The same way it isn't a knife that kills, it's the hands, the person that holds a knife and that decides to kill with it. Despite all of the things that you could be doing with a knife, you could, cut vegetables, you could be pruning trees, you could be doing a lot of things with a knife. Okay, so to me, in its essence, an opinion is not something that's bad. It's something that you actually need to assess what's going on around you. It is an opinion that's going to tell you, okay, it's really too hot, I need to put on the AC, or I need to cool myself, I need to go hydrate myself. You need that information and evaluate those information in order for you to act, in order for you to act appropriately according to the situation. So opinions alone are not what's dangerous. Now, when you start classifying, what people decide to do with their opinions or their beliefs, if they want to, act in a negative way. This is where you get violence, you get wars, you can get all kind of things. But this also why you have to go back to the principle that I've said. Maat is about you, is about controlling yourself. And this is why, I said, you're not here to change the world. You're just here to change yourself, you. That means when you're evaluating your opinion, when you're evaluating what is the best way for you to act in a given situation, you're not evaluating all the possibilities that other people can act. That's not your responsibility. You have no control over what other people can do or cannot do. Even when you try to influence them, it's still their decision to be influenced. It's still their decision to do XYZ. The only thing you can control is you and what you do with your opinions. And this is why episode 23, that principle of Maat that talks about listening to opposing opinions, is the process through which you can evaluate what your opinion is, evaluate its basis, its validity, its usefulness, etc., and assess, should you do anything with it? Is it something that you need to integrate in some of the behavior to improve your behavior, or is it even something you need to refrain from? And that's a personal, individual process that you have to go through. And I think if more people went through this process individually themselves, maybe they wouldn't act in a lot of the ways that we've seen around. But again, if somebody wants to choose violence, you yourself, there's not much you can do. You can persuade them. You can try to persuade them, but ultimately, it is their choice in terms of what they're going to do. Okay, and some of the examples that are being given in terms of spiritual conviction, and to me, spiritual conviction, to me, it's a term I kind of struggle with, because you don't need to be there isn't a need to be a conviction when you talk about spirituality, because spirit itself just is. It doesn't Spirit does not need to convince you. It doesn't need to protect. It doesn't need you to protect it. And this is why some of the things that are being underlined in saying, when you have some spiritual conviction, you're trying to protect it, you're trying to spread it, you're trying to help it dominate, and whatever, what have you. To me, I will just thinking about that. To me, it's more. This sounds more like what something will do with any kind of conviction. People have nowadays political conviction, and they're trying to impose it and spread it and what have you. Political, literary, sometimes scientific, even, as you've seen in the few years we've gone through. So that has nothing to do with the opinion itself. It has to do with the character and the personality of that person. Because, as I've mentioned, you can have all of the opinions in the world. If those opinions remain thoughts within your head, they're not harming and doing anything to anyone. It becomes a problem and issue when you're using those thoughts to implement it in a goal, in a way to convince other people, to push other people to act the way you want them to. Sometimes going against their own will. So, to me, the same way, you can have religious faith or your religious conviction that are within yourself, how you have your relationship with God and how you view that relationship, how you practice your faith and what have you, within your home, is your own business, and that doesn't hurt anyone. The faith that you have within yourself is between you and the divine, as you see fit and as you do it. Now the problem comes in terms of how you want to express that to other people, how you want other people to engage in that relationship with you. This is where some of the friction can come in. And this is why, to me, the path of Maat is a path that pushes you to focus on yourself, not to have to bring in other people within your journey. It's asking you for you to walk a certain path and to walk a certain way. And you start seeing that if you don't work that way, then even in the religious sense of it, if you start violating other people and stuff like that, you are violating other religious principles. You are violating other things. So it's very hard, even on the religious spectrum, to justify it. So I don't think you should be wondering too much about people in other religion, or in other path, what they are doing, so long as they're not harming you and they're not, trying to influence you, and you don't live next to them, or you don't. It's good, although it's good for you to be aware of what they are doing, to be aware of it, and maybe take your own precautions in terms of protecting yourself. Okay. But I don't think that we should be going around banning opinions. It's gives me it reminds me of the movie Minority Report, where you have a thought police. They are predicting that you're going to be thinking about doing something, and you get arrested before you even commit the crime. I don't think we get to that type of. I don't think we want to get to that type of world, and I do think that as we more and more of us work on this mad path and just embody the principle of working and transforming our own self, then we avoid having to have those kind of discussions where we policing other people's thoughts, and inferring things that are not even within there. So that's what I will say. And I think, some of you may disagree, may have other opinions. So sure, let me know. I would love to know what if you consider that the simple fact of having an opinion is dangerous, and what in that case, what should we do about people having opinion? Should we police opinions? Should we put rules? How do you think this is going to be enforced? From my part, it's just like, you have your right to your opinions. You have the right to have the thoughts that you have in your head, knowing that sometimes the thoughts that are in your head are not even your own. You can get thoughts that come from other people by being next to them, by them being sending you thoughts because they're trying to influence you. So this whole realm of what an opinion is and what kind of thought forms are existing and how to control them, how to deal with them. And I do think that the first premise of all of that is for you to be able to assess what your opinion actually is. Is it your own opinion or is it someone else's opinion? And as a child, it's okay to have your parents' opinion because they're giving you their opinion on everything else. And when you don't know better or you don't know anything, you take that as your own, as you're trying to assess the world on your own and see for yourself is some of the opinions that they had hold through, are useful, are actually beneficial, etc., etc. And you make that assessment. But even as an adult, you need to start thinking about the opinions that you have. Are they your own, or have you formed them on a wanky basis? Have you formed them based on a temporary feeling that's no longer true, that's no longer even present, that deform your perspective, that deform your thoughts? Is it this thought that's coming or this opinion that's coming from someone else, some of your friends, some of your community members and stuff like that? So that's a process that you have to go through and assess for yourself. The same way when you do meditation and you assess what thoughts are within you. What do you truly think when no one is listening, when no one is talking to you? What is within your head so that you can figure it out? Is those things even part of you or constructed by you, or were those things coming from somewhere else? Okay. Another point that was underlined was the dynamic between the role of a child and the parent being the guide of the child, and the having certain decorum and respect for the elders. That kind of establishment of roles, basically. And I think the contribution kind of underlined that it's not always functional. And I mean, one of the things that you have to realize is that nothing is perfect. However, you have to go and think, why would we require that children be guided? Because when a child is born, it doesn't know fire burns. It doesn't know that it can drown in water. All those different things that you don't know. This is why a child needs to be guided. Now, if parents did their due diligence and their work truthfully and had the time to actually know the child as that child grows, some parents are very aware. They're very capable of knowing, okay, my child is very mature. That child is aware of many things that they themselves is not even aware. So you will see sometimes parents going to their children asking for advice, asking for certain things. But that even when they're doing that, it doesn't mean that the child's going to be held as an adult, because the child is not paying. They shouldn't have to be paying bills, worrying about rent and stuff like that. The child should have a position of a child, which is a greater spectrum to learn, to have room to make mistakes, but to be guided so that the some of the more brutal mistakes can be avoided. And we always say, your job as a parent is to make sure you get your child through childhood, get them to be an adult, to have the resources they need, to prepare them to have the resources, the skills they need to be on their own as an adult and be able to make decisions for themselves. And it doesn't mean that you get them to 18 or 19 or 24 or 25, depending on what culture you're in, and they are going to be making great decisions. No, it only means that you do your best to get to impart in them what you know, what you've learned, to avoid at least the mistakes that you've made, so they don't repeat your own mistakes, but that you give them the room as an adult to start making their own mistakes and to go off, out of the nest, and start flying on their own and make the mistakes that they should be making as they are learning, because everyone is going to be making mistakes. Now, in terms of that role, is to recognize that a child is a child. It's not because your child has, as premonitory visions and things like that, that the child can tell you, okay, auntie, there's this, or mom, there's that, you have to be careful. Tomorrow, don't sign that contract because you're going to receive another offer that same day. Great value, but it doesn't mean that your child knows how to cook. If a 6 years old is telling you, yesterday I saw that you're going to go and do this and that and that and that, and it turns out it was in fact true, that doesn't mean that this child should be held and treated in a standard as an adult and given all of the responsibility as an adult, because that's your job to do. You may have children that have tremendous wisdom as they're younger. And I also want here to maybe expand on some of the concept about respecting the elders and the children, because I think it's misconstrued a lot. Because when we say you respect your elders, so much that they don't keep disrespecting you. That means, and you always have the room to disagree. It's not because you're required to respect your elders that you have to agree with everything that they say. And I've mentioned that several times. Grandfather can be holding some, opinions that are horrendous. You don't have to agree and bow down just because it's your grandfather. You can tell him, I don't agree with that. But it's more it's more impactful, and it's a lot more beneficial to you if, before you just disagree with your elder, that you try to understand why they're thinking that way. Why are you doing this? What is the basis of it? Because that will make you in a better position to agree on to disagree, sorry, after listening and comprehending what's being said. Because sometimes you can hear something and you can just be triggered, and your feelings, the feelings that you're feeling, are preventing you from seeing things for what they is. Your feelings can distort things. When you're angry, when you're emotional, it can distort the reality of what's actually going on. So this is why you take your time, you try to understand what is saying and why within yourself this is all of these emotions are being awakened. When you calm down, then you're going to see things a lot more clearly. You're going to have ask the question that you need to ask, and then you express your disagreement, because truly you cannot disagree with something if you don't understand what's being said to you. If you have all of this assumption around it, that means you haven't understood. So how can you disagree with something you haven't understood? You haven't listened to until the end, and you just disagree. While maybe having listened until the end, there's some part of it that you would disagree, or maybe you will disagree more candidly, because even though you disagree, you can understand what the perspective is, or you can even see why this position can be useful in certain situation or certain circumstances. Now, this being said, that you have to respect your elder, meaning when you go in to see a stranger or an elder anywhere, the same way you will respect a stranger, you respect an elder. That means there's a way to address them. There's a way to, you're not going to be addressing them the same way you address your friends, because you are in front of somebody who has a lot more experience than you, who will be speaking or should be speaking from the place of that type of experience as they're exchanging and discussing things with you. Now, that being said, traditionally, children are ancestors coming back. So this is the body is the body of a child. This is what the child needs to learn, what to do and not to do in terms of hygiene, in terms of what's dangerous, the fire, all those different things. But it is still an ancestor that's coming back. And traditionally, it's not uncommon that your parents, your entourage will speak to you as a grandfather, as an elder, and they will give to this child the respect that an elder deserves. They will even be very candid when you are your father's grandmother, for example. Your father will act towards you in a specific, candid way, to honor the grandmother that you represent, that's coming back as an ancestor. So it doesn't mean just because somebody is a child, you're going to start belittling them, you're going to start pushing them away or treating them in a negative kind of way, especially if this child is being respectful, is being speaking to you calmly, all the different things. It's uncalled for. And matter of fact, it's not uncommon to have children that tells you things that are valuable to you as an adult, that gives you information that you're not able to know, that you don't know. And that is immediately recognized as wisdom by the family members. Even though they will still treat you as a child, meaning that they will still be responsible for your physical protection, your mental, emotional protection. But they are able to recognize that, okay, this is a piece of wisdom that this child has spoken. They are able to recognize that even a child can speak wisdom. So just take that with a grain of salt. And when you're making this assessment, I understand that you're looking at situation from the outside. You're observing things around you. You're observing how people are behaving. But at the same time, you have to recognize that if somebody is being disrespectful, doesn't care about harmonizing their relationship with other people, and talk to anyone that talks to them or that doesn't talk to them in any kind of disrespectful way, that's not going to be your standard. That person cannot be your standard in terms of how you want to improve yourself. That person can only be an example of what not to do. And for for those of you who are underlining that, if you're looking around you and you're saying, "Oh man, there's so many disrespectful people around me," you know, don't waste your time trying to change them. However, when you start focusing on yourself and saying, regardless of how disrespectful other people are, I do not want to be that way. I want to be able to respect somebody and speak to someone calmly. I want to have a specific code of conduct for myself on how I behave in any given situation. I do not want other people to be able to rise up my emotions anyhow and make me feel any type of way by just pushing a button or two. So I'm going to work on myself, and I'm going to exalt that type of behavior of being calm, even when I disagree with other people, or not engaging a certain way with some people, de-escalating certain situations, so forth and so on. And all of this goes to the episode of 24 of the principle of Maat, which calls you to seek harmony. So harmony within yourself, so your emotional not trigger all over the place, so you can be centered, grounded, calm as you assess the situation around you. It doesn't mean you're going to do it all the time. It also means that it's going to require practice of you choosing that road over and over and over and over again until it becomes second mind to you, until it becomes a reflex, until you start doing it naturally. So when you are seeing a child that wants to speak in front of a commission or a group, a community, or elders, and some of the elders are being very disrespectful, your position, your role there is basically either to basically treat the child, tell the child that you want to hear what they have to say. You as an older person or as an elder, you want to hear what they have to say, and you want to understand what they are saying and why they are saying it. And basically, you'll be leading by example. Instead of pointing on what other people are doing wrong, you'll be showing what is the appropriate behavior in the situation, in that circumstances. And you may not have been directly involved in the situation. It may be something that somebody told you, what have you. The way um, to, let's say, eradicate that, or to help eradicate that, is for you to behave in a way that's respectful. Meaning that when a child's going to come to you and start saying something to you, then you're going to you're not going to dismiss them just because they're a child. If they're telling you that your brother is doing something that they've seen, now it's going to be for you to be assessing what they're saying and taking that in consideration, the same way you would have placed judgment on those elders by saying what the child is saying is outrageous or goes against their own belief or opinions or what have you. And what I've learned through experience is that sometimes it's easy when you're asked the situation to see, oh, this is how people should have done. They should have done this, that, and that, and that. However, you will see that when this situation is flipped on you, it's not going to be as simple as it seems from the outside. There may be other parameters or the detail that make that situation difficult for you, that you have to put yourself together and then remember this principle of seeking harmony. Remember the principle of listening to other opinions. Remember the principle of listening to the wisdom that may come from a child. And remember the principle of even you listening to other opposing opinion or listening to information that's around you, so that you can so that you can go through this process of evaluating your own belief and make a decision about the proper course of action in that situation. So always remember, this is why Maat does not call you to tell other people what to do. It calls you for you to assess how you can improve yourself. And it may be that when this situation is called for you to listen to a child, it may be that what the child has to tell you will shatter you. And it's not going to be a black and white situation where you're going to be, oh, this is easy. It may be something that's very difficult to yourself. This is why sometimes we say children speak the truth blatantly. The younger the child is, the more blatant and the more crude the truth is going to come out. And these are the instances in your own life, in your own path, that you have to see what principle of Maat is being called out of me right now. Every time your emotions are being riled up all over the place, you want to scream, you want to do it. Start asking yourself, what principle of Maat is being called for me to embody right now? That can help me get through this situation, that can help me get through this moment, or that can help me just calm myself, ground myself, so I can listen to what's being offered. So it isn't a question or an approach to point the fingers to others. Is an opportunity for you to point the fingers to yourself and say, where am I doing this? How can I improve and not end up like this person? When have I been as disrespectful as this person is becoming? You see, turning it onto you and saying, what can I change within me? What is there for you to change? Because there is something to change. No one here is perfect. So there is something there to change. And if you do a list of all the things that annoy you, around or things, you will find that some of those things are within yourself. You are doing them in other circumstances or in another form or another fashion, and this is why it's being pinpointed at you. This is why it's so easy for you to recognize them on other people, because you have that thing inside of you as well. This is why it's so easy for you to recognize, because it is already within you. And as you start working on those things within yourself, you'll notice those things less and less. Not saying that they're going to stop existing altogether, which is ultimately the goal if everyone will be working on themselves, but you won't be exposed to that. It won't be in your vicinity. It won't be in your community. It won't be in your family. It won't be something that you have to experience every single day or that you have to see, because as you start transforming yourself, you start changing your vibration, your energy, and there are just certain things that don't flick with each other, and that don't mix. Like oil and water doesn't mix. So certain things will go away from you. It doesn't mean you're not going to have any more challenges. You're going to have different sets of challenges. However, challenges are going to continue, but you won't have the same challenges as you grow and work on yourself. So I think it was a really good point in terms of looking at the relationship parent-child and child-parent. Um, and I also think this plays a lot into one of the concepts called the inner child. I think this could be a whole different conversation, because to me it's very important that that inner child grows up. If you're an adult, as you work on yourself, that inner child should grow up and become an adult as well. And that's a conversation for another time, but I think it's important for you to recognize that if something happened to you when you were a child and you're working on healing that, part of the process of healing is that fracture that you lived when you were a child is being healed, and then you grow up and you basically merge with the self that you are now. You integrate that portion of yourself within the self the person that you are today, and that child becomes an adult, the adult that you are today. So that child is a part of you. What happened is a part of you, but because you integrated, you're able to move as a full adult, instead of always having that fracture with you where you're carrying a child in your shoulder or in your back pocket and having a fragment of yourself that's kind of separate. But that's a different conversation. And lastly, I think the contribution also underline another element, which I will leave you with. The last point that was raised was also this notion of balance in terms of your inner world and what can trigger you to be manipulated or to express your inner world outwardly. To this point, I think that the earth is a very unique space, in terms of materially and spiritually. It is a very unique space, and this particular unique space attracts a lot of being all over the galaxy, all over the universe, to come down here to this space. So I don't think we should look at the earth as some earthly utopic utopia that is going to materialize right away. I think it is a process and a very long-term process that will be done through many, many lives. And some of those beings are coming from all the place to come here. They're coming here because that process of evolving, transforming yourself is a lot more intense here. We are exposed to a lot more things here than in some other part where it's either more, very much more polarized or very less. I would just say different. So to that point, I'll say that I have never met somebody who didn't know they were manipulated. Any person that I've spoken to that's spoken about being manipulated, um, saying, this person manipulated me, and I think this is something that we kind of throw around to say this person manipulated me, so you can blame that person, okay? Because this person cannot manipulate you if you already had an opinion. If you already had gone through the process of verifying your opinion, looking at how useful this opinion is, why you hold it as a conviction or as a belief, what is important to you. The same way, if you meet somebody who has gone and who has faith, unshaken faith, there's no way you can, shake that faith out of them or outside of them, especially if they're very focused. Anytime you're being manipulated, that means either you're not being focused, you didn't pay attention, or you don't want to pay attention. That's also some of the stands. They say, I'm going to let someone else makes a decision because I don't want to make a decision. I don't want to have to think about certain things. I don't want to form an opinion on certain things. So I'm just going to go along with what my friends are thinking, with what my community leader is thinking. I'm not going to question that. I'm not going to think about that. I'm not going to assess or evaluate what's being said to me. This person is telling me something. I'm not going to evaluate if this person um, words matches their action. I'm not going to do any of that because I just want to rest back and let someone else take the wheel. And as we've always said, when you do not do your own part, whoever you're letting drive the car, you're letting do take that control of a portion of your life is going to do it in their own benefit. The only exception is usually parents to a child, because the parents want the child to succeed. They're going to try to do their best to do the best that they can for the child. And then and there's a portion of time where the child cannot make the decision for themselves, so the parent is there guiding them and doing those things for themselves. Okay, but once you're an adult, and if you're letting any other person make this decision for you, whether it is your job, your employer deciding what's more important to you than yourself, then be assured that the employer is going to be making the decision in their own interest, not in your interest. They're going to be acting like what's best for the company, not in your interest. Because that's your job to see, maybe I don't want that promotion because the level of stress of this new job is not what I want to, that's not how I want my life to look like. Maybe I don't need to be climbing the ladder or higher and higher and higher. Maybe I can just stay in the position that I am at because I do that job very well, and that job just suits me. And of course, making that type of decision or that type of assessment may have consequences. Your boss may feel that you're not driven enough and just let someone under you take your position and fire you, or let you go, as they will say. And then you realize maybe that company, the value of that company or how things are being like didn't work for you at all. Maybe you need to go and go somewhere else. So there are assessments that you need to do for yourself, and the only responsibility is on you. And if you refuse to take a decision, that's also a decision. The choice not to do anything is a choice. So Maat here is just letting you know what you're going to be doing, how you're going to be doing is going to have consequences. It can be good consequences. It can also be bad consequences. But there is going to be consequences to that. And it's basically the choice is on yours to like whether you want to be more affirmative in terms of what you want to do, or if you want to be more passive and let other people decide for you. Now, I don't want to be all negative because sometimes it is beneficial for us to let other people take the wheel or to drive. This is often occurring when you're sick. You let someone else make some certain decision about yourself, take care of yourself because you are in a position where you can't do it for your own self. And this is where you also can learn and realize what are this other person's priority based on how they're going to act in that situation. This is what they tell you. It's in the hard times where you see who your true friends are, and that's an opportunity for you to know what you can count on whom based on what. And some of your friends may shine during those hard times, and some of your friends may just fall out. And that's also a way for you to understand and to learn from and to move on. But the same way, if you see someone else who's someone who's not being a friend to you when you're in hard times and all those things, yes, you can let them know. Yes, you can, distance yourself from them. But you also have to assess how that relationship was, because maybe your expectation or the assessment of that friendship was not realistic. There's things that you cannot ask somebody you barely know, the same way you ask your best friend. So there's still an assessment, a process that you have to go through to evaluate that. And sometimes you may have had a lot of red flags or a lot of indication that you're not that close with that person doesn't like you like that, or this person is not acting in your best interest, whether it's at work, professional, personal relationships. And all of those assessments are continually telling you, or showing you that you cannot be manipulated if you don't let other people manipulate you. There's a part of you that's contributing to this phenomenon where you're letting people just tell you what you want to hear. And the reason why you may be doing that is because you just want to hear what you want to hear. You don't want to hear the truth. You don't want to assess if this person is being truthful, and if what they're telling you is actually true or useful, and all those things. You don't want to do the work, which is okay, but that will have consequences. And if you are okay with not doing the work, you have to be okay with the consequences that come with it until you decide to do the work. And then you'll see that your experience is going to be different. So I'll stop there. I hope this discussion was helpful to you, that it may, have raised few things. Do you really think that, there are people who are master manipulators and they went to specific school and they learn all those different skills, they read your mind and they are able to manipulate it anyhow, anyways? Or do you think that sometimes you're the one who are letting other people manipulate you because you don't want to take the time, you focus on something else, you're distracted, or you just don't want to? You're letting your school tells you what major you should have because you don't want to engage in searching for yourself what you want to do, what you actually love. You're letting your boss tell you what job or what position will be better for you because you don't want to exalt your skills, or you don't want to expand, or you don't want to assert what you really want to do in the company. Maybe you don't even want to be climbing the ladders and being in that type of environment, but you are doing it anyways because you don't want to take the time to maybe see if there are another company that will better suit you, or other avenues that are available to you. Also, do you think that opinions are themselves very dangerous and we shouldn't be thinking? No one should have their own opinion. No one should have those kind of thoughts. There should be, maybe a thought police that will go around helping you to think the right way. Or you basically think that you are entitled to have your opinion. And sometimes you can hold an opinion that is wrong, and that you should be able to have this individual internal process of going through your opinions and figure it out what's working for you, what isn't, and that your opinion is just there to help you make decisions that will help you act in an appropriate manner in given such circumstances. So the opinion has to be distinguished from the action that's been taken based on the opinion. Just like I've mentioned, a knife is a knife. It's not bad, or it's not necessarily good. It's just a neutral tool that you use. You can use it to do great things, help other people, or you can use it to do negative things, just like fire, just like plenty of other things. So the thought around it is not what the problem is. The problem is really how it's being used, the person using it, and why. So let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.